Acadia After Dark is a horror podcast, and as such, may not be appropriate for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Nestled at the northeastern tip of the United States, Maine is a land where the wild and wondrous intertwine. Majestic forests dense with pines and whispers of ancient spirits cloak the landscape. The rugged coastlines battered by the relentless Atlantic hide secrets in their rocky folds, while stately mountains stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time. In the days of yore, this land was known as the Dawnland, for it is here that the first light of the new day graces the eastern horizon. It's a place where the sun's embrace feels like a promise of hope, even as shadows linger in the corners. The region's history is rich and varied, with tales spun from the threads of diverse cultures and whispered in the hushed tones of local lore. These days, folks call it Vacation Land. Name that, if you ask me, doesn't quite capture the spirit of the place, but we'll circle back to that later. Life in Maine varies with the tides and the seasons. Inland, you'll find small towns where the scent of freshly cut timber mingles with the smoke from wood stoves. The mills hum with the rhythm of hard work, and the forest echoes with calls of unseen creatures. On the coast, the salty tang of the sea clings to the air, and the fishermen venture out at dawn, their boats creaking like old ghosts in the water. Both the mills and the fishing boats ride the waves of economic uncertainty, making it no surprise that Maine leans heavily on tourism as a lifeline. Visitors flock to experience the state's natural beauty, quaint towns, and the stories that seep from its very soil. It's a delicate balance, this dance between the past and the present, between the wild and the tame. The locals here are a tough, resilient bunch, rugged and hardworking. Some might call them stubborn, but it's really just the northern attitude that comes from enduring long, bone-chilling winters. Up here, you either adapt or you don't make it. Speaking of the cold, Maine winters are no joke. The harshness of the season is legendary. With snowfall measured not in inches, but in feet, sometimes tens of feet. The wind howls like a restless spirit, and the biting cold can slice through layers of clothing like a knife. It's cold that seeps into your bones and sticks to you like fluff, making you feel as though even your soul is shivering. Yet Mainers don't just survive the winter, they seem to thrive in it. They strap on their hunting gear and head into the woods, snowmobiles revving like wild beasts ready to conquer the frozen terrain, and the slopes come alive with skiers carving their way down icy paths. Out on the frozen lakes, you'll find folks ice fishing, patiently waiting for a bite in the frigid air, putting away a few cold ones while they're at it. Of course, they'll complain about the astronomical cost of utilities when the coldest months roll around, but that's just part of the charm. Grumbling is as much a tradition as the activities themselves, a reminder that despite the hardships, the people here are bound by a shared sense of endurance and a deep connection to the land. Tourists from all corners of the globe find their way to Maine, drawn by the promise of serenity in quiet small towns or the thrill of wilderness adventures. Since the 19th century, wealthy folks from afar have flocked to Maine to soak in its wonders. And for reasons that become clear once you've been here, there's always a piece of this place that stays with you, lingering in your heart and mind long after you've left. The natural beauty that beckons humans here also makes it a haven for a rich tapestry of plants and wildlife. The lakes and rivers teem with a diverse array of fish, their shimmering scales catching the sunlight as they dart through the clear waters. The woodlands are alive with creatures of all shapes and sizes, so many in fact that listing them all would be an impossible task. From the elusive bobcats to curious raccoons, the forests are a symphony of life. In the early morning hours, the harbor comes alive with the cries of seagulls, their raucous calls echoing through the crisp air. They swoop and dive, feasting on scraps or anything else they can find, ever the opportunistic scavengers. It's a reminder that life in Maine is a delicate dance between the human and the wild, a place where nature's wonders are always within reach. As sun breaks over the mountains, the forest creatures begin to stir in their dens while chickadees sing their morning songs, and every day begins with nature serenading the lands with her music. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, it isn't always that idyllic, but then again, not much in the world is. Over Maine's long history, it has transformed from a rugged frontier of discovery to an industrial powerhouse, driven by the logging and fishing industries. In the good times, money flowed like water from Moxie Falls, and the state thrived. But when the large corporations got a bit too greedy and the land began to suffer for it, times grew hard. Some might blame it on regulation, but the reality is that as technology became more efficient, nature simply couldn't keep up. The forests that once seemed endless were stripped bare, and the waters that teemed with fish grew quiet. The delicate balance between progress and preservation tipped, and Maine had to reckon with the consequences. It seems this comes in cycles. Men in their hubris overstep their bounds, and sometimes, just sometimes, nature rises up to defend itself in often unexpected ways. While Maine once shone brightly in the annals of history, nowadays the Pine Tree State often finds itself overlooked, flying under the radar, as they say. Yet amidst challenges, Maine's spirit endures as people adapt, finding innovative ways to survive and thrive in an ever-changing world. They turn to tourism, inviting others to share in the beauty and the mystery of their homeland. They look to other new fields like medicine, technology, and energy as the world continues to change, drifting further from what the state had previously known. While the shadows of the past linger, so too does the resilience of a state that has weathered both the fury of nature and the folly of man. Speaking of shadows of the past, one crucial aspect of Maine's story, often overlooked yet vital to the tale we're about to tell, is its rich and intriguing history, an expanse that is eclipsed by the vast unknown. Deep in the heart of Maine, where the dense woods keep secrets and the fog rolls in from the Atlantic, there lies a history as dark and twisted as the ancient trees. This land, rugged and untamed, has seen more than its fair share of sorrow and strangeness. The coastal towns, once bustling with the clamor of shipyards and the laughter of fishermen, now echo with the ghostly remnants of a bygone era. In the quaint villages and remote hamlets, tales of the supernatural are as common as the changing seasons, and the old-timers, with their weathered faces and eyes that have seen too much, speak in hushed tones of creatures that lurk in the forest and spirits that haunt the rocky shores. These stories, passed down through generations, are woven into the very fabric of Maine's identity. But it goes much further than that. Maine's geological tale is steeped in ancient origins and transformative events spanning eons. Over 1 billion years ago, the Chain Lakes region of northwestern Maine may have harbored primordial rocks, though much of the state's early geologic past shrouds itself in mystery even from the prying eyes of modern science. As epochs rolled by, Maine's landscape took form, sculpted by the confluence of 3 distinct terrains: Laurentia, Levitas Ocean Tyrannus, and the erstwhile microcontinent Avalonia. Throughout the Paleozoic era, titanic mountain building events such as the fearsome tectonic orogeny and the relentless Acadian orogeny hewed Maine's rugged terrain and birthed the northern Appalachian Mountains. These cataclysms, coupled with the rampant igneous activity, etched the contours of the state's unforgiving landscape. Some 12,000 years ago, the last glaciation imprinted its icy signature upon me. Glaciers, with their inexorable marks, sculpted jagged, rocky bays, inlets, and fathomless lakes, while strewing glacial till that enriched the lowlands with fertile soil. As the ice grudgingly retreated, Maine's modern visage emerged, a land of rocky coastlines, ancient mountains, and myriad waterways. Then, roughly 5,000 years ago, intrepid humans ventured into this untamed expanse. The land, though alien and hostile, begrudgingly yielded a home to those who fished its shores and raised villages along its rivers and lakes. For around 3,000 years they thrived, building villages that lived off the rivers and the lands until they inexplicably vanished from the annals of history. Centuries passed before new culture settled in this enigmatic land, bestowing upon it the name Acadia. The name Acadia finds its roots in the Micmac language, where Acadie, or Acadie, means place of abundance or fertile land. When French explorers ventured into North America during the 16th century, they adopted this term to describe the rich, verdant region they encountered. This region now encompasses parts of Canadian maritime provinces and Maine. In 1604, France staked its claim on Acadia, establishing it as a French-speaking colony. The region stretched across what is now New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, and parts of Maine. The first organized French settlement in Acadia was founded in 1604 on an island in Passamaquoddy Bay by the intrepid explorers Pierre du Guatemont and Samuel de Champlain. These people had come a very long way, enduring great hardship, and many of them would find that hardship was soon to follow. In the shadowed glens and along the fog-bound shores, the echoes of old legends whispered through the night. The Micmac people spoke of spirits that dwelled within the forests, and French settlers, with their own tales of the supernatural, soon found themselves entwined in a web of fear and fascination. The island in Passamaquoddy Bay, where Dumont and Champlain established their foothold, became a place of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena. On moonless nights, the sea would churn with an unnatural fury, and the cries of phantom sailors lost to shipwrecks could be heard mingling with the howling wind. The dense woods with their ancient gnarled trees hid secrets older than time itself. There were places where the light of day seemed afraid to venture, and the shadows danced with a life of their own. Settlers, guided by the dim light of their flickering lanterns, would gather around roaring fires, sharing stories that sent shivers down their spines. They spoke of strange lights hovering over the water, of eerie chants carried on the breeze, and of encounters with beings that defied description. Each tale added to the tapestry of fear and wonder, binding the living to the land's spectral past. Throughout its history, Acadia was a battleground for control between France and England, with ownership frequently changing hands. Despite the turmoil, the region's cultural fusion thrived as Micmac traditions intertwined harmoniously with European customs, creating a unique and vibrant tapestry. Despite their differences, they all agreed on one thing. There was something indescribably different and altogether special about this land. That same indescribable feeling resonated in the hearts and minds of every person who ever lived in these woods. It was intense and primal and desperate, yet at the same time, it felt as natural as the plants, animals, sky, water, and earth. They belonged here, and so the people felt they did too. However, not everything in these lands shared that same sentiment. Some things, older things, hungrier things, darker things, resented the people and the land of the light. Imagine a land where the very earth seems to pulse with ancient power, where the whispering wind carries the echoes of forgotten legends. The Wabanaki and European settlers, despite their cultural differences, felt a kinship to this place, and a connection that was both comforting and unsettling. The land called to them with a voice that was both welcoming and foreboding. But amidst the beauty and tranquility there lurked an undercurrent of malevolence. There were places in the forest where the sunlight never reached, where shadows seemed to move with a life of their own, and in these dark corners the old things dwelled. Creatures of legend and nightmare waiting for the unwary to stray too far from the path. The people of Acadia, both Micmac and settlers, learned to live with this duality. They respected the land and its mysteries, understanding that they were but temporary visitors in a place that had existed long before them and would continue to exist long after they were gone. They told stories about their fires, tales of bravery and caution, and of those who had faced the darkness and those who had been lost to it. The Acadians, as they were come to be known, were only one part of a long and fascinating history here in Maine. It seems this place has a cycle of growth and decay, feast or famine, life or death, and as such, these people were eventually subject to great tragedy and misfortune. The great upheaval took place, which saw them driven from the lands only for the cycle to begin again. Humanity has had a lot of achievements, and some would argue more than a few failures. If I were to ask you what is the most important thing man has ever created, there'd likely be a multitude of answers. Tools, the wheel, the internet, fire. All of which are understandable answers to the question, but I would argue there's something more important, and that is what we are doing now. Telling stories is something that only humans can do, and the tales we tell serve more purposes than you may realize. They educate, they inform, they entertain, and they pass on wisdom. Stories can be essential to survival as they communicate an oral history that sometimes gets forgotten to time. But somehow in the shadowy vestiges of our stories, those warnings still linger, waiting to be remembered. So as we delve deeper into these tales, remember that Acadia is more than just a place. It's a living, breathing entity, one that holds its secrets close and reveals them only to those who are truly willing to listen. It is a land where the past is never truly at rest and where the shadows hold stories waiting to be told. Join me, listener, on a journey of discovery where we will seek out the untold history of this place known as Acadia and what lurks there after dark.